Good morning, everyone. I'm Catherine Johns-Maston. I'm the Special Collections and Systems Library at Penfield Library at SUNY Oswego. The library director, Sarah Weissman, and I worked on this grant with others from the campus, so I'm just going to share an update with you. Our Archives and Special Collections unit is located in the basement of Penfield Library. The college was founded in 1861. And one of the first things, I'll talk about our grant in a moment, but one of the first things that we scanned was a photo of our founder, Edward Austin Sheldon. Some grant details. The grant from with the grant, we purchased equipment to digitize 3 collections. That's what our grant said we were going to do. And in the past, we'd used a flatbed scanner to digitize materials. And we found that this new setup has improved the quality and efficiency of scanning for us. It's just amazing how wonderful the camera is and how the vibrance of the pictures and everything like that. However, we were very ambitious and we planned to digitize multiple collections of varying size and type in 1 year. So we had 2 correspondence collections, which were pretty big, and then one that consisted of ledgers from customs records from the Port of Oswego, and you see them listed here. Then the equipment we purchased, I've listed it here just in case anyone wanted to see exactly what we did buy. The only additional things that we purchased with the grant money where we realized after we started working that our batteries only lasted about 2 to 3 hours on the camera. And we really wanted, when we had back-to-back students, we wanted to spend more time. So we ended up purchasing a couple more batteries with the grant funding as well. The thing that we didn't purchase was we had an existing computer and we had plenty of storage space provided by the campus. So we did not have to consider that as part of this, and definitely want to make sure that you consider that when you're doing a large scanning project. We scanned the Millard Fillmore papers. If you don't know, he was the vice president, and then when Zachary Taylor died, he became the 13th president of the United States. Our collection was brought to Penfield Library in 1969 when the college received a house containing the materials. So he doesn't have a presidential library, and most of the bulk of the collection is in a few locations. So SUNY Oswego, the Buffalo History Museum, and the Library of Congress. And there are some smaller collections at different institutions as well. The collection was microfilmed in 1975, but they're not the best, and the digital scanning was something we really wanted to do to improve access to it and ability to access those from people on campus, but also off as well. So the largest part of the collection is correspondence with 41 boxes. So we thought we'd be able to do that in a year, plus those other things as well. So just some examples that I'm sharing here. There's image of Millard Fillmore, if you didn't know what he looked like. And also here's an invoice for some opera glasses that he purchased. So there's a variety of things, but the bulk is the correspondence. And I've shared one letter here where a young man wrote to the president to ask for his signature. So in digitizing the Millard Fillmore papers, we started in February 2019. It took a little while longer than we expected for the equipment to arrive. So we spent the fall getting the equipment and it was on back order and things like that. So we did not get everything set up and ready to go until February 2019. And then staff and students started scanning in earnest. So as of today, we're speaking today, almost the entire collection has been scanned. It's over 9,000 things. There are a few things that haven't been, there's some published books that we're not going to scan, and there's a few maps that we're still working on getting those scanned. And then obviously we scanned it all, and then we have to go back and do a little bit of cleanup, do some cropping and things like that. So that is almost completed as well. We went back, making sure everything was clear, that it was straight, that it's oriented properly. Every once in a while, the students scan a letter and it's upside down for some reason. So we need to make sure everything was oriented properly. And then our last step before loading to New York Heritage was a final review just to make sure that all the pages of a document were scanned. You'll see in this document on the page here, if you kind of look on the left side of it, you'll see that some of the text got cropped off when the students were cropping. So we do go back and just do one more look before we load anything. So that had to be rescanned. So then we have to go back to the box and do some more work. And having a variety of people scanning this many items means each box could be scanned a little bit differently, which can be a challenge. So that was something you need to think about. And then during our final stage as well, while we're making sure everything's okay, we're kind of looking to see, is there anything that needs conservation? We found some items that have tape on them. So we were noted those on a spreadsheet and can go back later to do some conservation work or to make sure that they're not damaging the papers around them. The reason we selected this collection is because it's unique. We're really the only holders of this. We were hoping it would generate questions, potential visitors, and also try to get the faculty more involved, getting students interested in the digitized collection, this particular one, or maybe other ones as well. So another goal was trying to build connections, like what is the connection, what is the connection between the collection and other things. So this is just a simple example, but Fillmore was invited to what they call the elevation of the Statue of Washington in Virginia. So I saw this and I said, oh, well, it must still exist. So I went out, and you can locate information about the monument today. You can see images, learn about it, the pluses and minuses of having it there, all those kind of things. So trying to build those connections. This is a small one, but there are other things we're hoping to connect to other collections on campus, but like beyond the campus as well. So some interesting things we learned about the collection. As we're learning more about Fillmore, we learned some things about history, of course. He signed the 1850 Fugitive Slave Act into law, and we've learned other things about him as well. While we were doing the scanning, the student came upon some human hair, which gave the student quite a scare. At first, they thought it was like a rodent had died in the collection or something. So that was interesting and unexpected. We certainly didn't know that it was there. Then we have several printed pamphlets and newspaper clippings are interspersed. So we are trying to make sure that those are not damaging the items around them or damaging the item that they're attached to. We have his passport, a couple of them. And then there was a book that lists the items that were removed from the White House when his administration ended, which we thought was an interesting book to find, and that he had documented this as well. So that was interesting. Our student workers were very excited about the project, and I shouldn't say this was a positive, unexpected outcome, but our students were very excited about the project, and they shared this with their friends. So we did end up hiring a student based on the fact that they'd heard from the other students about this project and they wanted to work on it. They thought it sounded really cool. So it's very important to hire the right people, especially with a long-term project. So our group of students that we've had, 2 of them have been with us for 2 years, including one that worked in the summer and during winter break. Well, not this summer, but previous summer. And that helped with the continuity and consistency. They understand the project. They kind of have the idea. They know how to use all the technology. They know when to say, what is this? Or something seems wrong with this. So that's really helpful. That wasn't something that we planned, but it's definitely something in the future we would think of when we're doing a project like this, trying to make sure that we hire our students, maybe not hire someone in their final semester of the senior year, make sure we hire someone that hopefully can stay with us for a period of time. Prior to the pandemic, there was interest from local history societies about the equipment that we got through the grant. And we were starting to explain our processes and work with them, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to that again. For right now, all of those kind of things are kind of on hold. Another thing that was put on hold, we had a faculty member who planned a transcribe-a-thon with students in her class. However, that was canceled this spring. The upside of that is that instead we did a mini transcribing project that came about because the campus closed and we needed some projects to be done at a distance by staff that were not physically on the campus. So our staff in archives and special collections and library staff from cataloging and access services units participated and did some transcribing, which they found daunting a little bit some days. And then we also were able to keep our student workers employed when the library's physical space was shut in the spring. So they were able to do some transcribing as well. So we have some potential future people who would be interested in transcribing, or at least their friends have seen it. So maybe we'll get some more students that are interested in doing that kind of a thing. Some future challenges, let's see. Transcribing is obviously time consuming and requires human intervention. So with 9,000 plus things, it's going to take us some time to get everything transcribed. At this point, we're trying to finish our uploads to New York Heritage. And our goal is by the end of May 2021 to have everything loaded. This is kind of ambitious, and hopefully we're not being too ambitious. Currently, there are 649 items loaded, so you are able to go and see that. That just happened just in the last few days, actually. So they are up and they're visible, and you can see them and search them. So things we learned. Planning is key. This document, I'm sharing the link because I think it is that important. We used it after we started the project. So there's been several people kind of heading up the project over the last 2 years. So we definitely would have done more planning if we could go back and do it over again. So we've learned a lot because of that. So we want to really evaluate the size of your collection and what you really are able to do. Estimate, and when you're estimating how long it will take you to digitize things, 9,000 things is going to take a while. So trying to do 3 things was very ambitious. So I would just say, make sure to plan ahead and be prepared for all these changes along the way, because who could have predicted a pandemic? We couldn't ever have considered that in our planning. So definitely it changed things, but it also got us some people who are transcribing things for us that might not have gotten done. So there are some pluses to it, even though there's quite a few minuses. And some future plans, as I said, we're going to try to get all our Fillmore papers uploaded by the end of spring semester. We're hopefully going to have a few more student hours this spring if everything works out. So we'll have a few more students to help us. The next thing after we've got that done, we hope to start working on our Edward Austin Sheldon papers and start digitizing those, the founder of the college. Some other things we're doing is we're definitely increasing our outreach about collections we digitize. So finding aids are being created using Empire Archival Discovery Cooperative to give more access and hopefully get more people interested in these collections as we digitize them. We're posting on Facebook and Instagram, and then we're doing presentations on campus, but also like this and at different events to try to get people to know what we have, especially this new digitized collection. We've also been working closely with faculty to integrate collections and these projects to try to see if there's anything that we can work so that a faculty member could maybe integrate this into a course or have students come and do internships and things like that. And just recently, our college archivist got some computer science faculty who are interested in, they're trying to do something with transcribing so that they can do it automatically with a computer, with a screen reader. So I'd be interested to see if they can do that. I'm not sure they can, but it would be a cool project if they could. And thanks a lot. I wanted to thank NNYLN for the grant and for all the help they've been giving us in getting everything loaded up into New York Heritage, especially Christy. And we'll just leave you with the death mask of our founder, SUNY Oswego's Edward Austin Sheldon. It's appropriate because it's October. Thank you.
So just so you know, throughout, I'll be showing images that were digitized as part of the project. So the content isn't necessarily key to what I'll be talking about, but I definitely want to share some of the wonderful results, the visual results here. So the Farmington Art Museum in Ogdensburg houses the world's largest collection of original paintings, drawings, sketches, sculptures by American artist Frederick Remington, in addition to a broad array of his photographs, personal effects, correspondence, and other ephemera. The collection encompasses the full range of Remington's artistic vision process, from preliminary sketches to completes and everything in between. Our archive Remington sketches, photographs, and correspondence represent a window into local, national, international history of the period. Correspondence included figures like Theodore Roosevelt, Owen Wister, General Nelson A. Miles, Faustina Gibson, Charles Haslam, on. The collection has particular area of military history, the history of common settlement of the American and Canadian West, Native American and First Nations studies, visual culture studies, cultural studies more broadly. It represents an essential resource for researchers, educators, curators, artists, the life and work of Frederick Remington, or in the historical milieu in which he worked, and the American that he helped to create. Prior to 2019, access to most of the museum's collection of some 6,000 objects was extremely limited. The digital database of works in the collection did not contain digital images of these works, nor did it contain accurate or complete content about them. Anyone who is interested in Remington's work or in these archival resources could not browse or investigate the collection on site, really. Researchers had to visit the museum in person in order to physically search for new original works under the direction and handling of museum staff. This unfortunate situation limited the vast potential for research and education of this foundational collection, besides putting a burden on small museum staff and necessitating undesired handling of the materials in the museum's collection. The museum's mission is to expand and deepen appreciation and understanding of his work by engaging contemporary audiences and keeping his legacy relevant. So to help fulfill this mission, the museum's 2016 strategic plan set a number of ambitious goals. Digitization of the collection was identified as an important priority, since increasing access to the museum's collection would support goals set by the strategic plan. According to 2018, the museum started planning, and in 2019 began what was anticipated to be a 3-year project of digitizing its permanent collection. The coronavirus situation makes lengthening that timeline by an additional year likely. We began with a successful application to be a community partner for St. Lawrence University Interest Corps, which links talented and passionate blue students with North Country nonprofits and public interest organizations. And in partnership, we established the foundation of our digitization project. St. Lawrence provided not only intern Dana Congolosi, but also the loan of a high-quality scanner, and perhaps most importantly, support from the digital resources staff at SLU. So I saw Eric Williamsbergen here at the meeting. Thank you, big thank you to you in particular and your staff, who generously helped us to establish digitization workflow, image processing, and quality control protocols specific to our needs. As a result, felt prepared to move forward with our digitization effort, and soon after were awarded Northern New York Library for Special Collections grant to do so. We provided funds for the purchase of our own scanner, the Expression 12000 XL, as well as to hire a digitization contract worker to create digital search for content metadata for the remainder of Remington's sketches, as well as his photographic collection. With the NNYLN listserv, we are able to pay for this role museum professional Joanna Jennings in digitization. After where Joanna was able to create content metadata, excellent digital surrogates for around 500 of Remington's sketches until the coronavirus pandemic necessitated the closure of the museum and the termination of Joanna's employment. And as the museum moved toward reopening, we continue the project with a paid intern from Harvard University's Museum Studies graduate program. Digital collections intern Mirka Kuji joined us in July and spent the remainder of the summer continuing the work project, creating excellent digital surrogates and content metadata for the remainder of Remington's sketches, just over 500 images for a total of just over 1,000 objects processed in the first grant period. We control on the digital objects created through the project to examine Remington works that I had never seen before. While our grant proposals significantly overestimated the number of objects that could be digitized with our funding, we've already seen the positive impact of the project and feel strongly positioned to move forward to increase access to this important collection. We put the images created thus far to use in a number of valuable ways. In our training sessions, educators at the museum, the materials have opened up new depths and avenues of exploration in our studies of Remington artist and historical actor. In 2 pre-pandemic field trips by area We grade social studies classes studying the Spanish-American War, 1898. We were able for the first time to share with students high-quality images of images made by Remington while he was in Cuba during the war. We had excellent conversations grounded in these primaries, and in this time of enhanced remote learning, more robust digital learning modules on the subject of Remington in the War of 1898 using our newly digitized materials. With respect to the same materials, I met remotely with curators from the National Picture Gallery who are developing a major exhibition in 2023 on the War of 1898. The curators were floored by the Cuba sketches in our collection and plan a research trip to the museum when the coronavirus situation permits. It was thrilling to see the excitement of distant researchers as they grasped the historical and aesthetic significance of materials, to anticipate their use in such a promising edition, and to feel that this was a foretaste of the future as our collection becomes fully and remotely accessible. Looking ahead, the two major elements of our project will be continuing to digital image and content metadata creation for the remainder of our collection, and developing excellent means of access to them for researchers, educators, curators, collectors, artists, and the general public. For the former, we're currently pursuing grant opportunities and also make use of volunteers when possible. As to the latter, the creation of an online platform has been built into plans for a new website for the museum, one of the key objectives outlined in the museum's strategic plan. And at the local level, the museum's strategic plan also calls for the creation of an orientation and learning lounge, which will include a digital workspace so that visitors to the museum can explore the full collection beyond what they've seen on view in the museum galleries. We're also looking forward to sharing one or more thematic collections with the New York Heritage Project once we have fuller intellectual control for the remainder of the archive. The Special Collections Grant from the Northern New York Library Network has been of pivotal importance to the Remington Museum. It's set into motion action steps that are needed to achieve both our short and long-term goals. The materials at the heart of the project are the core strength of our museum, and the museum's trustees and staff are enthusiastically committed to sharing these incredible resources with the world, using them to redefine Remington as an artist relevant to audiences today. So in closing, on behalf of the FRAM, I want to express our sincere thanks to NNYLN and its team for their vision in building up our regional institutions and for being such supportive and engaged partners. And I want to encourage any of you to be in touch if you envision opportunities for collaboration or ways that you or your patrons of this collection or be part of the project.
All right, good morning, everyone. So I'm here to talk about our Memory Lane project. So we applied for a special collections grant with the hope of digitizing a portion of our directory collection. So I went through our little archives. We receive a lot of postcard donations. And so this is a beautiful shot of Washington Street, Roswell standing there nice and tall, and the dome building in behind being our library. So our focus, like I mentioned, was digitizing volumes of our city directory collection. So we have an extensive collection for the Watertown area dating back to 1840, leading up to present day. We are actually still receiving current volumes of the city directory. So we knew that these were heavily used items that are starting to slowly wear out. So we wanted to focus on our earliest years and having them digitized to increase access while also keeping the current condition kind of in play for what we have on our shelves. We see these used heavily, and the more people learn about the content of a city directory, the more that increases. So we love showing these off for community snapshot. What's going on in the government at that time? Who was in what position? What businesses were around? Who was able to afford to advertise? And then who lived on your relative street? So who were their neighbors on either side? All of this cool information in a city directory, unlike a normal phone book. So we unfortunately are not able to take on this project in-house. So we knew from the start when we were applying, this was going to be something that we were going to outsource. So we used image integrators. They are locally based in the Syracuse area. And that was a huge perk for us. We did not want to have to worry about tracking in the mail any of these volumes. So someone from Image Integrator actually came to our library and picked up part 1 and part 2 of our collection that was going to be digitized. So we knew they were in safe hands the entire time and not getting lost in the mail, which now with COVID is even a bigger issue. So another talking point for our decision to outsource was our inexperience. We did not have the scanning equipment. We did not have staff training on any of this ahead of time. And also with the equipment cost, we didn't have that in our budget to be able to start this project, purchasing all of that and doing all of the digitizing in a timely manner. So the scanner pictured on the screen is the scanner that was used by Image Integrator for our project and is definitely out of our reach in the 15,000 plus range piece of equipment. So outsourcing to them was definitely more in our budget, and NNYLN agreed with our project. So for the timeline, we were so optimistic and so on track before COVID hit. We had our first batch picked up in December and completed by early January. The second batch was picked up in January and then stopped. So we had a long gap between the pickup in January until Image Integrator was finally able to finish our scans to us. While they were working on our second batch, I was working from home with some time in the building, so I was able to come in and work on the metadata side of the first batch of scans that we had received. And then the second batch came through with a nice COVID mass delivery. And so then we were able to actually finish our metadata and all of our scans prior to the deadline for the grant. We were then lucky enough to find ways to meet up with Christy at NNYLN, who then helped us move everything over into the New York Heritage Project platform. So she helped with all of those steps for us using our metadata and our files to have all of these included there for us. So going live was a fun event, but not as fun as it normally would be. We were a pretty much empty building. All of our summer visitors who would be extremely excited to know that they could come to our area over the summer months and then go back home and still have access to this collection were not here with us. So we've had very limited patron interactions with the group that would normally be most excited about this collection for their research needs. So those COVID disruptions stick with us today. We are allowing people to do research in our building. So we have had a few learn about these being available online, but not as much as we were hoping for. So our future plans are to continue our marketing efforts. So many people are avoiding websites, avoiding social media, avoiding anything digital because they've been surrounded by it for so many months. Trying to get them excited about this collection or getting it in front of their eyes has been a challenge. So we are looking at tutorial creation and instructions for how to use the city directory with their content. It's part of our genealogy series. And we are looking for ways to continue adding to this collection. So use of other scanners to keep this directory collection growing. Because with COVID, we've learned more than ever how important it is to have access to things outside of our physical building. So with that in mind, we are looking at what we have in-house that others would benefit from in a platform such as New York Heritage to keep this growing. Next slide. And so again, a huge thank you to the Library Network for supporting our project and all of our future endeavors, and definitely looking at digitizing in a whole new way with the limited access to our buildings and collections. If anyone has any questions, I kind of kept this short. I know we're running behind. Feel free to reach out to me at the Flower Memorial Library. I'm the only Amanda here, so it won't be hard for staff for finding me. Thank you.
I'm from the Adirondack Experience, formerly the Adirondack Museum down in Blue Mountain Lake, kind of in the heart of the Adirondack Park. And this year, NYLN was kind enough to give us some money to work on digitizing a collection of audio recordings from the birth of the Adirondack Park Agency. And if you're not familiar with that group, that's the governing body that was established in 1971 to kind of create the rules of how land in the Adirondack Park could be used. Because, you know, the goal is to conserve, you know, the beautiful nature here, while also allowing the people who live in the park to, you know, make a life for themselves. So it's kind of a delicate balancing act between putting environmental concerns and economic concerns against each other. And it has been controversial from the start. So we have a collection of audio recordings from hearings that were recorded all over the state when the Adirondack Park Agency was first created, and they were sort of rolling out their plans for how private and public land was going to be used in the park. So this collection consisted of 88 cassette tapes from, you know, roughly 1971 to 1973, so pretty outdated technology. They were in the little cases you see here, and they had basically no information on the cassette tape. Some of them would say where the hearing was recorded and what the date was, but some of them didn't even say that. So we didn't have a lot of information to go on. There is a finding aid that came with them, but it didn't really have much more than what was already on the cassettes. And then conversely, this collection has been getting more interest from researchers in the last few years because we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of the start of the APA. So we were seeing that there was a need to do something with this collection so that people could actually get access to it. Because up to now, to listen to these recordings, you had to physically come to my library. And that's very difficult for people to do in the wintertime because we're usually snowed in. And then I had to pull out a little 1990s boombox that we had and put the tape in and just play it from there. So it was not a good way to give access, and people were sort of demanding that we do something better with this. So thankfully, NYLN stepped in and gave us some money so that we could send these tapes off to get digitized. So we sent them to Preservation Technologies, which I think is a sub company of Media Preserve in Pennsylvania. And they digitized everything, sent us the cassette tape backs along with a drive with probably 190 audio files, something around there. Maybe more like 170, but a lot of audio files. And so the next step in the plan was that I would then create catalog records for all of those files and upload them to the Internet Archive to give people access. But of course, this is right about when COVID hit. So that's all been delayed a bit, but I did get to do a test batch that I can kind of show you how this next step worked. So with each cassette, there's two sides. So each cassette is going to be 2 audio files, and I grouped them by when I know it, the date and location of the hearing. So what you see here is the record for the Rochester Public Land hearing from 1972, and this is the 4 audio files that are associated with it. And you know, the cassettes themselves were old, and so the audio quality wasn't always very great. So before I even uploaded these into Internet Archive, I went into Audacity and tried to filter out some of the noise on the files so they're a bit more listenable. So then I put them on Internet Archive, and the great thing about this is that now anybody who uses Internet Archive can find these, and I'm pretty certain there's more people using Internet Archive than there are using my museum's collections database. So sharing them here gives them a lot more exposure And also, they host the files for free, which is something our in-house software, PastPerfect, wouldn't do. There's like a limit to how much you can upload into PastPerfect. So this gives us a way to get the audio files more exposure and also host them for free, which is kind of a win-win for us. And then the great thing I discovered, this is our PastPerfect catalog. So if you go to the museum's database, this is what you'll see. And I didn't know this before, but I realized that in PastPerfect, you can embed a digital file that's hosted elsewhere. So what you see here is, our metadata page with all the information we have. And then at the very bottom, that's the audio file from Internet Archive being pulled in to our PastPerfect database. So there's a direct link between the two. So this way, the people who are used to using our museum's database and who are looking for this information through us can still get to that audio file that they need to see, and it's done pretty seamlessly. So it doesn't require them to know that they have to go to the Internet Archive. So thank you again, NYLN, for supporting this. Our next plans are, I'd love to share this metadata with New York Heritage, but what I need to do first is get everything into Internet Archive. So that's my project for the winter, is to get all those files uploaded in there. And I know that the New York State Library has more information about this collection also, because they have collections that mirror it. So I'm hoping I can get down there, sometime in the next several months to go in person and do some research so that I can get more of that background information on the cassette tapes that we have.
Hi, everyone. So we're very excited to work on a project that we're calling Virtualizing the Library. And the general idea is that we're going to be using three main types of technology: photogrammetry, 360-degree imaging, and also hyperlapse imaging, to try and create sort of virtual representations of things like our rare books and artist books, but also some of the spaces in the library. And to do it in a way that can be accessible through virtual reality goggles, through dynamic web presentations, and to otherwise really try and, further bring to life the objects that students are no longer able to come in, for instance, to our special collections and archives and actually experience. And so we're starting first with materials in the library and spaces in the library, but also in conversation with a bunch of faculty who are teaching with different types of objects, whether it's biological specimens or sculpture, or really just about anything that is a physical object that they're used to presenting and engaging with students in person. And we're going to be using these different platforms and approaches to create these virtual representations of all those objects and spaces. So it's a little bit on the ambitious side, but we're very excited about it. There's a very large number of faculty who are very excited about it. So we're going to try and sort of work on our workflows, methodologies in the coming moments, and then be able to have materials available for teaching and research and instruction this coming spring.
First, I just wanted to thank the network, obviously, for providing us the funds for this opportunity. What we did was the Library Advocacy Initiative. And basically this stemmed out of recognizing a need for especially our rural public libraries in our 4 counties to acquire more sustainable funding. We've seen municipalities be squeezed budget-wise, and especially that is true, with their funding towards the library, and especially that's true of COVID times. So we really wanted to do some sort of program that would really give libraries in our area some more enhanced skills for pursuing the ballot funding and the advocacy. So it's basically 6 classes, and it teaches libraries specific skills that they would need, such as building and utilizing a contact list of local library supporters, writing a proper press release, doing reports to the community, some advocacy training from PC Sweeney from every library. And the 6 classes cover the timeline leading up to the May school ballot the public libraries would be going out on. Additionally, as far as not just offering 6 classes, but we're actually going to have between NCLS and Clinton Essex Franklin Library System we're going to be having a cohort of libraries participating in a deeper sense through a learning management system called Miles that the network has provided. And basically, it's kind of like having an online class, right? Where we've got the sessions, there's a little bit of homework, there's a forum, we can communicate with libraries specifically and get more hands-on with their own campaigns and everything. And then additionally, there's just a little bit of money in the grant as well for us to do like some tangibles for advocacy, such as like yard signs, boosting Facebook posts, things like that. You know, and I just want to leave on just the outcome that we hope is to not only better equip library for with the skills to acquire sustainable funding on a ballot, but to also strengthen those approval ratings, which I think, you know, as we have more kind of anti-tax sentiment in a lot of our communities, I think strengthening the approval ratings is going to be a really important way to kind of measure overall support for libraries in a community.
So I'm the library director of the Tupper Lake Public Library. I took over in April. You know, we're a smaller library, but we have a collection of about 40,000 items. In addition to that, we also have a small Adirondack history room. And in that collection, we have a historic photo collection. It's never really been inventoried. The scope of it is unknown, but it includes some great stuff. A lot of photos from the Tupper Lake Free Press, which is our small community newspaper. So the grant that we received from NYLN, the title project is Improving Access to Tupper Lake's Historical Collection. And the goal is really to gain physical control of our archival holdings. The historic photo collections, we have ephemera, maps, and vertical files. And, you know, there's been a good faith effort over the years before I took over to process these collections, but it's been done piecemeal and by volunteers. And as a result, it's just not complete. So the funding that we're getting is going to allow us to hire a project archivist to come in for a 7-week period of time and to process the collections and to rehouse everything too. So some of the funding is going to go towards, you know, archival folders, Mylar, and things for encapsulating our maps. The end product, the goal is to create finding aids that we'll put up online. And within, you know, the broader picture, this is just part one of what we hope will be a full digitization of these photos, and the photos will then ultimately be uploaded to New York Digital Heritage site. And we have a community member who's looking to help us fund that step of the project. So the support we're getting from NYLN will just start getting that ball rolling. So I plan on posting a job ad in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we find a good candidate who can come in and, you know, I'll do some training, but we're really looking for someone who needs minimal amount of training, who can really step in, create a processing plan, and just knock it out pretty quickly. It's not a huge collection, but it does need dedicated attention. I'm the only full-time librarian here. We have staff that's all part-timers. They have their hands full with, you know, their day-to-day workload. So that's pretty much the project in a nutshell, and I think it will be a big boon to the local community. And we've also had, you know, researchers who've come to our collection looking for things that they just haven't been able to find because the collection's just not usable right now. So we're really hoping that this step to create these finding aids will just create better and greater access to the community, to the collection as a whole. So that's soon we'll work our way up to the VR goggles, but we're not there yet. So
thank you so much, Ben.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Potsdam's just in a really interesting position right now. We are nearing the end of a 3-part construction grant, and we can't let anybody in our library. All our books are packed up. We can't get to them. But so to continue to, you know, connect to our patrons, we have been hosting some series of videos, maybe, you know, walking through the construction project or talking to community partners. And we quickly realized that even though we had human resources to take care of this, we had nowhere near the equipment We recently hired William Eckert from the Watertown Times, who's going out and making these videos. And on his first filming out at Adirondack Raptors, his iPhone was knocked out of his hand and flew across the room. And then when we were processing the video, we have Erin Carberry's on our staff. She's a film studies graduate. And it turned out that she was processing our films on her 2002 MacBook Air. So when we found this action grant, we put together a request for some better equipment. So thanks to NYLN, we're on our way to getting a couple of GoPro cameras and all the special equipment that go with them. And Erin will have use of a brand new laptop so that we can do some quality production on that. So we're going out into the community. Our rec department actually has a lot of winter equipment for rent and borrowing. And William's going to be going out doing snowshoeing, whether it's, demoing the snowshoeing, as far as looking at the environment outside in Potsdam and in other local communities, or doing a few lessons on how to use, the snowshoes and that kind of thing. We're also partnering with Maggie McKenna from our local arts council, and obviously Mark Mansky from Adirondack Raptors. We're doing a local series. We're doing a social justice book club, anything that we can find to do that will connect us still with our patrons. And these are the ones that we've done so far have gone very well. I was looking at the Facebook video views for just September, and he's had well over 7,000 views of his videos so far. So with the outside videos, we're going to do 12 episodes, and we're really excited about it. I'm sorry I'm distracted, but William's standing right here practicing with the GoPro camera. So thank you very much to the network for funding us.
Hi, everyone. I am Chessie Monks Kelly at Historic Saranac Lake, and we have recently received a donation to our collections that I cannot understate the importance of, or overstate, whatever. Anyway, one of our major facets of our history here is in the treatment of tuberculosis patients from the 1870s until the 1960s-ish. And we think there are about 60,000 people who came through here, but possibly way more than that. And so at least about once a day, especially during COVID, I have received requests for patient information. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why records have been lost, things like that. But anyway, we got a donation this year from the former Tuberculosis Society here in town. And I have one to show you very briefly, a collection of, I think, close to 19,000 of these cards with records. This one in particular is a request to be admitted to Trudeau Sanatorium as a TB patient. So that represents a huge resource for us in terms of those requests for genealogists, but that also represents almost $19,000 cards with, early 20th century handwriting on them, and only one me. So the project from NYLN, in brief, is to hire someone to transcribe approximately 14,000 of those cards. We'll see how we do. And also to create a public-facing online instance of our Past Perfect catalog for the first time. So all of the, being closed during COVID has really underscored how important it is for us to allow patrons to do some research on their own from home. So that's really exciting for us. And within the next 2 years, we'll have collections online as well as a reading room in our new building. So we're on the edge of a really exciting transition as far as making our collections available to the public. So thank you, NYLN, for that.
I'm Mary Kay Stone, and we're a small historical society in Oswego, New York, who has a beautiful collection of archives that were organized in paper when we had a paid staff, but have never been digitized. And earlier this year, I did get some digitization equipment, a large 11 by 17 flatbed scanner, Epson, and a film and slide scanner and external hard drive through a grant from the Pomeroy Foundation and the Museum Association of New York, because we recognized that, especially in the pandemic, we needed to be able to make our collections more accessible to researchers. But we are also all volunteer and skew kind of older, and it was daunting to look at the requirements for NY Heritage and Empire ADC and terminology like metadata and try and figure it out ourselves. So this NYLN grant, which we are so grateful for, is going to let us hire someone to mentor us, a professional archivist. And we are looking around among you for some recommendations for someone to hire. But also we're going to be able to hire the labor of a recent graduate from college in either history or museum studies to work alongside us. The goal is to be able to create the protocols and the manuals so that we will be able to then teach others how to do it as we get more volunteers in. And the goal is to not only digitize 3 important collections, but to rehouse them in proper archival materials, to create finding aids and get them up on Empire ADC, as well as getting the collections on NY Heritage. And the 3 ones that we chose that are requested the most often are the Dr. Mary Walker collection. Now, she is to date the only woman who has ever gotten the Congressional Medal of Honor, and she's really hot right now. And the only way we've been able to send out digital images is to take them over to a copy center and have them do the digitization for us in high resolution. But now we're going to be able to do it ourselves. And Catherine from SUNY Oswego mentioned the Emergency Refugee Shelter Collection, which we also have unique items. The Emergency Refugee Shelter at Fort Ontario in Oswego is the only shelter that was set up during World War II for mostly Jewish refugees from the Holocaust. And we want to make sure that those are digitized and available to the public. And the third collection, like Amanda from Watertown said, the city directories are one of the most valuable and accessed collections that we have. And the Oswego Public Library got a NYLN grant years ago, but only digitized up to 1929 because they thought there were copyright issues. And I learned in a Northern New York Library Network Zoom meeting that there are no copyright issues. So we're going to do the 35 that we have from 1930 on. And so that is our goal. I hope we haven't bitten off more than we can chew, but you always, have to try. So we'll see you all next year.
I'm Sarah Spanberg. I'm the outreach librarian at Plattsburgh Public Library. Anyways, and NYLN gave me the grant and I was able to go to the conference, but also to do the Youth Services, Empowerment, Advocacy, and Leadership Academy. And I will try and quickly share a few bits with you. One of the very important things, particularly as it pertains to thinking about your own career and your personal professional development, they introduced the difference between leadership and management. And the idea that when you really get into leadership, it's about having that larger vision. It's not just about managing your resources, managing your people, managing your building, but it's about having a vision for what the library is and making sure that you're marshaling the resources you do have to create it. Also enjoy the cat videos. The cat pictures. I can't help myself. The other thing, which was kind of strange for an outreach librarian to start thinking about, was the idea how important customer retention was. That was from the marketing course or workshop, as you call it. And just that the return on your investment is so much greater when you can retain the people already coming through your door, which definitely ties into the idea that word of mouth has always been our best tool in the box for getting the word out and what we're doing. And it kind of hurts when you think that when people run the numbers about customers in different organizations and different industries, that 68% leave because they think we don't care about them. And keeping that in mind can really ground the idea of good customer service and how important it is. And lastly, and this was more important to me as an outreach librarian, is the idea of when you do have a partnership that you're working to mutually identified goals, that you're sharing responsibility and resources equally, that both sides are getting the benefit. And sometimes I think it's easy for libraries to justify because we are such helpers, but that it really helps to link it to the service priorities for your organization. But the real benefit was meeting everyone. I know we don't have that right now because we're all at a distance, but just talking and experiencing, well, not experience, but talking and hearing about what other libraries are doing about the problems that we all have. How do you run your kids' room? How do you run your teens? And I don't mean run as in run, although interesting. How are you managing your library? And I've been lucky professionally to work in 2 different states, 3 different types of library systems, and it never gets old to hear how other people are doing it.
So my name is Dorian Lenney-Wallace, and I'm the Youth Services Librarian for Ogdensburg Public Library. This past year, I took part in NYLA's Developing Leadership Program. This program is designed to help librarians develop soft skills for use inside the library and in the community. The program took place over about a year with in-person and digital sessions. There was also a group project that participants worked on throughout the year. My team consisted of public school and college librarians and focused on providing resources to increase accessibility in all kinds of libraries. This project gave me the opportunity to work with librarians outside of my specialization, as well as update my knowledge of adaptive technology and its potential use in the library. I was able to use some of the skills I learned during this project to improve the accessibility of my library and to update my story time with elements from sensory story times done in other libraries. I added a visual schedule to my felt board to allow participants to keep track of where we were in the program, and added more interactive elements to keep the children's interest, including a bubble machine. Before COVID, it was just me blowing bubbles, but now it's a bubble machine. I also discovered some great resources that review video game accessibility for people with a variety of disabilities. I use these resources to help choose games for our library's collection. Even if your library doesn't purchase video games, video game accessibility is a great way to learn more about adaptive tech. Video games require the users to interact with and understand many different signals in order to play the games, so it becomes clear very quickly if a game is flawed or unplayable to a person with a specific disability. Some solutions developers come up with to combat these issues may also be helpful in your library. For instance, seeing what a game highly reviewed for colorblind gamers does to solve that issue might help you choose better color and design for library signage. Through the lens of video game review, I can see what issues the library might have and how I might solve them. The project also helped give me the confidence to try bigger collaborative projects in the future. I look forward to finding partners around the area to help better serve the community. One big takeaway from the program was learning to work with different styles of leadership. There's no one way to lead, and learning to adapt your style to how people prefer to follow helps a lot. Knowing who needs explicit instruction and who is more comfortable winging it can be very helpful to managing a team. Being aware that everyone is different, and even if you like to have everything written down and organized into a comprehensive plan with binders and colored pens, other people might be turned off by this approach. Similarly, people take criticism differently. Some people need to be spoken to directly and clearly and told what they are doing wrong and what they are doing right. Others don't handle that approach well, and you need to find less direct ways to help them succeed at their job. While working on my group project, I learned the importance of clear communication when given a task and a month between meetings to get it done. You need to be clear on what the task is and what their deliverable is going to be. One practical tip is to always send meeting notes to every member of the group and have them read them over to make sure sure that everyone heard the same message. The project developed my skills in working with groups outside of the library building, and I believe will make me a better collaborator in the future. Overall, I would say the in-person workshops were the most useful part of this program, allowing me to network with other librarians with different experiences and expertise. The digital workshops were similar in tone and usefulness to most webinars, with interesting presenters and topics, but nothing particularly special to offer.
Yeah, sure. There's so much in there that would be a lot of fun to talk about together. We'll echo what Michelle Bishop just put in the chat, that everybody has been up to interesting things, doing interesting projects, and we are always curious about what is happening in your space, in your minds, in your futures, in your organizations, all the things that you're thinking about and doing. We're always interested in that stuff. And we hope that we can connect with you all. We've started to be a little bit more present online. We're on Twitter and Instagram now, hoping to connect better with you all. And so we hope to see you there and see you around in our different workshops and meetups. So I'm just going to say thank you all. It's great to see you all. Good to hear from you. And congratulations to everybody who has just completed projects and just gotten awards to start some projects.